call to order at 6 p.m. Are there any comments for closed session?
Trustee Rios, I just wanted to let you know I did receive a text from Trustee Mullins that he will not be here tonight.
Thank you. Commence to closed session. discussion, approval for leave for employee 11-111601. Approval of agenda for June 9, 2022. Do I have a first motion? Do I have a first motion?
I will move that we.
So,
table to
actually,
next meeting.
actually, trustee Rios, may I make a recommendation that we pull item 14.6 and approve the agenda with everything minus that item?
Do I have a first motion?
We should probably do the Pledge of Allegiance before we continue.
We go
Yeah, we can.
We can do that. It's okay. We can do that. If trustee Cornell would like that, we can do that. The same.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and you may be seated.
Okay, Christina, I just want to make sure that we've got this. We have, I have a motion on a first on approving the agenda, removing action item 14.6.
Do I have a first motion?
I'll make that first motion.
Do I have a second? Cornell,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Tapia,
Aye.
Permisano. Thank you. So now it's approval of agenda. Approval of agenda for
Of minutes. We just did the.
approval of minutes for May 12, 2022. Do I have a first motion?
I'll make that first motion.
Do I have a second? Cornell,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Tapia,
Aye.
and for Miss and I. Reconnection section, Ms. Green.
Okay, so this month, the attendance award at 92.82 goes to Shirley Lane. And you may also see that we have a new trophy here. One of the things that we started, we did a soft start in February was with Hazel Health. One of the things I think is really important is that every student in our district has access to adequate health care. We were able to get a grant for a year. And so we've started that, and we've sort of had a little friendly competition among the school sites in getting families signed up for this. So we're going to be giving a new award, and it's called the Fairfax School District Healthcare Initiative Award. And if, for those of you who don't know, Hazel Health covers both physical and mental health, and it is free to all students in the district. And the first award goes to VA for ensuring that most of their kids had access. And again, Mr. Hernandez and Ms. Burkhead and Ms. Johnson, I expect you to kind of give him a run for his money on that one next year.
Public comments? Are there any public comments? Next regular board meeting, July 14, 2022. Next special board LCAP meeting, June 23rd, 2022. Staff board communication. Does the board have anything to report? Yo tengo algo que reportar. Atendimos las graduaciones de Shirley Lane, Miss Lawson, Mr. Mack y yo. Todo estuvo muy bonito. Gracias a la principal, Johnson. Y también asistimos a las graduaciones de Fairfax Junior High, Miss Lawson, Mr. Tapia, Dr. Green y Miss Brown. Le queremos dar las gracias a Wendy Burkett, la principal, y también a David Hernández. Muchas gracias. Estuvo todo muy bonito. Por último, quiero reportar que quiero felicitar a la superintendente por haber terminado su doctorado. Muchas gracias.
I'm guessing this is my public comment. Mrs. Burkhead, you gave an outstanding speech, I felt, at graduation. And I also felt that was the best, most organized, well-run, except for the poor girl that fainted, graduation I have ever attended. So my hat goes off to you. It was, and it wasn't real hot either. So it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I appreciate your hard work very much.
Comments from Ms. President Rios. We assisted the graduations at Shirley Lane, Ms. Lawson, Mr. Mack and I. Everything was wonderful. Thanks to the principal for everything. We also assisted the graduations at Fairfax Junior High, Ms. Lawson, Mr. Tapia, Dr. Green, and Ms. Brown. And I would like to congratulate the superintendent for finishing her doctorate.
Superintendent report.
Well, it was a very, very busy May and beginning of June. As President Rios and Trustee Lawson is indicated, the Fairfax Junior High graduation was absolutely beautiful, well done, very well organized. All of the students gave wonderful speeches. The student performers, very well done. I've been through countless graduations, and I will honestly say that it's one of the best that I've ever seen. I also had the privilege with Mr. Tapia to attend the kinder graduation at VA, and that was a very delightful experience. How organized that was and how those kinder teachers got those kids to do 2 performances, my hat's off to them. Having taught kinder, I know how difficult that is and how much practice and work went into making that a beautiful occasion. We had a great start to summer school. And, thank you to Mr. Hernandez for taking that first bite at the summer school apple, and he's done a great job. I'm also pleased to announce that we're starting a new partnership with United Way. And board members, you should have this in your packet, and we'll be getting this out on Parent Square. But on June 16th from 2 to 4, we're going to have a book and food distribution here at the Perk. So we are very happy about this collaboration, and we look forward to bringing more items forward with the United Way. Thank you.
Administrative Services report, Ms. Brown.
Just briefly, I have a presentation later to give, but I just wanted to commend everyone on a great year that finished strong, and it was great to be back a full year and have our students back with us and some of those traditions that we like to provide them. Also, a lot of work goes into summer school. There's a lot of things that go on in the background, and we often say all hands on deck, and this truly was an effort by all. So thanks for getting summer school started, and enjoy your summer, everyone.
Businesses, services, Mr. Mack.
Well, good evening, everyone. Glad to be here tonight. I will note we're going to be going over the budget report here right now. In your packets, you should have a copy of the report, as well as I typed up a glossary of school finance terms in there, because we can go over a lot of things right there. And sometimes it's always nice to have a little bit of a refresher on some of the terms, because some of this we only go over at the board meetings once or maybe twice a year. So I do typed up a little glossary of different terms that we may come across for your information. Here we go. So tonight, all right, so tonight, we're going to have a public hearing later tonight for people to open up, make any comments about the budget. We are not adopting the budget tonight. There's no action required by the board tonight on it. We developed this budget using the most current information available. The final state budget has not been enacted yet. Just remember that, but we are required to adopt a budget before our state actually adopts theirs. All assumptions are based on the governor's May budget revision, the School Services of California Dartboard, CCSEAs, and the basic common message put out by KCSOS. If there are any significant changes to the state budget, we do have 45 days to make a revision and adopt. We have done that in the past. There's nothing abnormal about that. But just remember that when we look at budgets, we're required to analyze the current year as well as 2 subsequent years during the budget and interim reporting period. So we'll be looking at this coming year as well as the 2 following years, and outlook on that. So again, the governor maintains funding for all of the items of the January budget proposal. We went over this a lot at the second interim. He did make some notable changes. COLA, for instance, in January, he had it at 5.33. It is now statutory COLA at 6.56% is the statutory COLA. However, he did augment the base funding by 3%. And so how that calculates everything is basically we assume a 9.6% augmented COLA. So that's a very big record-setting COLA right there. A lot of happy faces. Proposed one-time block grant at $1,500 per student for our 21-22 P2 ADA. That excludes any adjustment from the COVID ADA relief. So even though we were funded on held harmless, this block grant would be funded on our actual attendance rate this year, not what we were funded this year on. So that would be our 2400 ADA at that 91%. He proposes an amendment to the LCFF calculation to allow school districts to utilize the greater or current year. So our budget is based off this year's P2. There is still something in the Senate and legislative to do a 3-year average. I know we talked about that at second interim, but we're taking a conservative approach and we're going with our most current data, which is our P2 ADA. We'll get to that in just a second. He proposes the expanded learning program to be funded on target at $2,500 per classroom ADA. That's going to be a large amount of funds coming in on that. And then a TK add-on is proposed with a funding rate of $2,813 per ADA of TK students. And then again, like I talked about earlier, that proposed 3% augmentation to the base rates. Some assumptions on ADA. Our ADA at P2 this year was 2,479.
And that includes 8 students that go to a charter school that we have to pay their ADA off. That's a 91% attendance rating for the district. 23-24 ADA assumptions are based off 25-54, which would take into consideration of historical growth plus a 93% attendance rating. And then our 24-25 ADA is based on 2,630 students based on our historical 95% attendance rating, with an unduplicated pupil count at 88% is the assumptions that we make for attendance. I'd be remiss to note that with the funding so high this year, listing law imposed a 10% cap on the amount of local school district can maintain in their reserves in Fund 01. So this condition was met this last year, triggering that local reserve cap. A district is not exempt from the reserve cap. A district has some special options. We are not exempt. So we can commit reserves rather than leaving them in assigned or unassigned. A commitment requires board action. That's if we leave them in Fund 01. We could transfer reserves to funds other than Fund 17. So we could put them in, say, Fund 40, which is our fund that we use for capital development. And that's what is proposed in this year budget. Or we can contribute to restricted resources within the general fund. Not a recommendation I make. So projected revenue. So again, if you look at our revenue across the year from our estimated actuals of where we were this year, our LCFF sources, that's what we call our base, this year was 31,144,000. And so we're proposing an increase, a 4.8% increase at 32,566,000. Now you say, Mr. Mack, that's only 4.6%. Remember, this previous year we were held harmless. So our ADA was higher. We're currently looking at a declining enrollment where we're going back on at that 91% attendance rate. So although we had that 9.6% COLA, we're still facing a declining ADA with attendance. So we need to make sure that attendance is a priority, that we get students in school. Federal revenues, you'll see, are declining. That's as our ESSER funds, all those COVID relief funds are rolling off. State revenue, you see a large increase, and that's basically $5.9 million increase of the new expanded learning program the governor has proposed. Other local revenues, which would be our property taxes and local revenues we have here, is basically staying pretty flat. And so that takes our overall total fund from $47 million this year to $52 million next year. So we broke the ceiling of a $50 million budget. So again, all revenue streams projected to increase. That takes in case that 6.56% COLA with the 3% adjusted rate based on all those ADA assumptions I made. I'll take a quick pause if there's maybe any questions on revenues at this time. All right. Now expenditures, obviously with a larger budget revenues, there's going to be increased expenditures. So you'll see on here that we're making sure that we have the expenditures going across. So this last year, certificated salaries were 15,153,000. Right, was the estimated actuals. Next year, we're proposing a 7.2% increase of $16 million. Classified salaries going from 5.6 to 6.5, large increase there. And then benefits from 9.3 to 10.8. So this year, I'd be remiss to not let you know that our retirement or our pension benefits STRS, which was previously at 16.92% of their salary had to be given to STRS, was moving to 19.1. And our CalPERS for our classified staff is moving from 22.91 to 25.37. So that is a large amount of those benefits. And again, you'll notice there's an increase to capital outlays in these expenditure budgets. Capital outlays would be building projects. So if you look at the budgeted almost $4 million, that is largely funded by restricted funds through the expanded learning project. We know that space is limited at Fairfax. We don't have a lot of space. So capitalizing on some of these restricted funds this first year, our goal is to go out and build some room for all those kiddos in the afternoon. And so this year we're looking at doing an aggressive building project for that. Fingers crossed, as construction and supplies are not always the best to get right now, but we do know that this is something, space is something we need within our district. And all expenditures are aligned with our LCAP, which we'll be talking about later and be adopting later this month. Transfers and contributions. This is a big thing that we want to talk about. So again, $5.98 million being transferred out. We talked about earlier that we're set on this 10% cap. So I'm proposing that we transfer a large amount of money out. So $5.98 million, I'm proposing that we transfer in this budget to Fund 40 so that we can still have reserves in our district. Not too long ago, 2 years ago, the state proposed budget cuts, and the budget cuts weren't true, but what they did do is they did cash deferrals. And then we went many months without getting any of our revenue. And it was our reserves that kept us afloat, that we had the cash in the bank to make sure to pay payroll, and we did not have to go out and get any loans to subsidize payroll. When you go out and get a trans loan, it affects your bonding potential very much so. And with us going out and trying to build a school in the future, that is not something that we want to get involved with. So again, we do have a 7% reserve in our board policy that we maintain. So what I'm proposing here is keeping 3% in Fund 01, but moving 4% of our reserve to Fund 40. We've always kept about $1 million for a major facility repair, that if there's something, that an earthquake or something went down, we would have money in the bank to get something started. We do know that we're setting aside money for that purchase of land. And then another good share in there is the district share for future facility modernization. In the proposed budget by the governor, he does set aside some competitive money for modernization of schools. And so I want to make sure that we're prepared that when it comes to going out and getting modernization money, that we have some funds set aside, because generally they're matching funds out there. So we want to make sure that we have the right amount, that we can get a match, that we can give some of our older campuses some much needed love. And then continuing, there'd be a $500,000 transfer to our Fund 14, which is our deferred maintenance account. That's staying with our yearly budget, what we've transferred out, to make sure that we're keeping our asphalt slurry coated, doing projects like window modernization, making sure that classrooms are painted, carpeted. We want to make sure that there's funds to do that. And then you'll see in their capital outlays, increase in contributions. Well, the big portion of that is our contributions to what we call our 8150 restricted account. In 1998, there was a law passed called the Leo Green Law that says 3% of all expenditures across restricted and unrestricted funds must be given to a fund for ongoing maintenance. So that would be all our ongoing maintenance. So with that $6 million approximately of expanded learning, that increased our expenditures quite a bit. So in regards with all our expenditures going up, we had to transfer an extra $600,000 into our 8150 account for ongoing maintenance to meet that requirement. And so that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's some maintenance projects that we can go on. And so now we've got some money on there to make sure that we can meet those needs of the districts. And then of course, special ed always has ongoing contributions that are needed in some of our other restricted funds to make sure we meet their needs. Ending fund balance. This is always a good measure of health of the district, right? But I need to make sure that we understand these transfers out are going to affect our ending fund balance. So this year, this next year in our budget, we're looking at an ending fund balance decrease of $3.9 million. That money's not disappearing, remember, because we just talked about transferring $6 million out. So if you do that math in your head, we're decreasing by 4, but we're transferring out 6. So not quite all of it's going out. So still some quite health. But remember, fund balance is not cash. because where that's just a budgeted amount. Cash comes at different times of the year. But again, our ending fund balance in this proposed budget will decrease, and that's something that we're not used to seeing. But that is to meet the needs to make sure that we meet those new reserve rules that have been triggered. Moving on to our multi-year projections. Total revenue in this is steadily increasing. So you'll see that our projected revenue here is 32.5 for this next oncoming year, moving up 7.76 with increasing attendance and the ADA assumptions to 35 million one to our base. And then in 24-25, projecting 37 to our LCFF base. You'll notice that the federal revenues are rolling off, and that is that COVID funds, those ESSER funds, finally have to be all expended by 24-25. And the feds are kind of done giving those monies out there. They've given quite a bit. But then assuming local revenues stay fairly similar, and again, with everything else staying pretty true, you will see other state revenues increase. So you see that large increase next year with that expanded learning money, and then holding as we go through. Looking at expenditures, we're looking as we continue to increase salaries along the way. You'll see that we're taking into general assumptions of step and column, as well as fixing in a 4% increase to benefits, whether that's health and welfare increases, as well as our statutory benefits going up. I've got two big arrows there that I want to point out. If you see in column C under certificated salaries and column C under classified salaries, you'll see a large increase, approximately $1 million in classified salaries and $550,000. I'm sorry, $1 million in certificated salaries, $550,000 in classified salaries under the COLAs. Don't get your hopes up. That's not a COLA. What that is that's funds coming in to pay for salaries for new positions for our expanded learning program. We know that program is going to build this year. We're planning on getting rooms. Once we have those rooms built, it's getting the positions in there. Those dollars have to be accounted for. I would have loved to put them in column E, other adjustments, but we got this nice new web-based SAC system, and there was a glitch in it, and it didn't allow you to put a number there, but you have to count those for the dollars. So everyone decided we're going to put them in COLA and just make it very clear to everyone. I'm looking at Miss Buddy as the bargaining agreement, and where's Miss Olga, that it is not a COLA. It is for new positions. So just take special note of that. But again, we're keeping pretty much similar to our normal budget. You will see our salaries increasing over the years as we're looking on growing and adding staff there as well. We're looking books and supplies growing to basically by the CPI index of what general inflation looks to be. All services and operating costs going the same. You will see capital outlay very high this year and then decreasing down in the years past as we're trying to spend that expanded learning just in this next year, not that giant building project every year. So just some special notes there. So looking at our ending fund balance, so like I talked about, we're having that the decrease in our ending fund balance this year in our unrestricted and restricted. I always like to look a little bit at our unrestricted account because the restricted is a lot of times has all that one-time money in it. So if you look at our unrestricted account, that's the one on the bottom. We're moving from $2,978,000 decrease, but then years after that, we have nice increases to them of $67,000 and $85,000. So we're getting back on historical track. So again, that decrease is really for that transfers out going on in the future to make sure that we keep our reserves. You'll notice when you go look at the top one with the restricted and the unrestricted, you see a little bit different shifts up and down. And a lot of that has to do with those COVID monies rolling off again. So unrestricted budget is the best indicator of fiscal stability. So we see that we have that small increase to ending fund balance is a good onside of that. Again, projecting a slight increasing to unrestricted fund balance in 23 and 24, and the decreasing balance in 22, 23 is due to the transfers of funds to that Fund 40 local restricted account. Cash flow is always a big question. The new fiscal year, there's no deferrals that we've seen in the past plan. So we're projected $9.5 million of cash balance compared this coming year in July. Compared to last year, we were at $1.1 million of actual cash in the bank. That is a lot of those ESSER funds that we've actually seen actually hit the bank account sitting there, and we've got plans to get those spent. Again, our projected ending fund cash balance is $4.9 billion of actual cash in the account after those end of the year transfers out. All those transfers out next year, by the way, will take place next June. So we don't transfer those right at the beginning. We can always make adjustments at first and second interim based on the need of the district. So those would all be planned to take place in June after we do our estimated actuals. So there's no cash flow issues anticipated this year.
June 2023.
Correct. June 2023 would be when those transfers out would be. Looking ahead, the final state budget will be signed by Governor Newsom June 30th, 2022 this year. We have 45 days to make budget revisions that will be presented in August if needed. That's a very good possibility that may happen, but I would say in the positive rather than in the negative. 21-22 unaudited actuals will be presented in September. So these are kind of some ongoing reports as we're coming up. Board will need to take action and adopt a budget at our special board meeting June 23, 2022 to stay in compliance. The budget must be made before July 1. So we do have that special board meeting planned for that day to adopt this budget. So at that point, I will ask if there are any questions. Hopefully I didn't take too long.
20 minutes.
Student Services Report, Mr. Garday.
Right, good evening, everyone. Student Services in our Health and Wellness Department, our nurses have been reviewing all our summer school enrollment, identifying all our students with any medical needs, making sure that they're training the staff and the aides, the teachers, so that they're well prepared, so that all those students can continue to have a really safe summer and just kind of continue on. They've also finished up all the inventory for next year, so they've been working really hard, closing everything out. We also, like Ms. Green alluded to, that we did close our Hazel Health at School initiative just for the summer, but all of our families will continue to have the opportunity to access their online or at-home services throughout the entire summer. In our special education services, we've been working really hard preparing all the IEPs and CUMES records for the 8th graders that are transitioning to Kern High. We held transition meetings with their representatives and ensured that all of our students continue to get all their services as they start their new journey into the high school. In our expanded learning, just to reiterate, big thank you to our summer leadership team, Ms. Davis, Mr. Hernandez, Ms. Johnson and Jackson, Mercedes Castro, also MOT and nutrition. Because of them, all summer school got off to a really smooth start, continuing to enroll students right now, the first week over 500 attending our general ed, kinder bridge, migrant, special ed, also doing speech services over the summer, as well as continuing our CTE partnership with Kern High. Also new to us, real exciting too, is that we partnered with CALM this summer to extend some field trip opportunities to our students. So I'm excited to share this quick video of our 3rd graders that was made by Mr. Adan Garcia for everyone to enjoy. So yeah, definitely lots of fun. Any questions? All right, thank you, everyone.
KFTA CSEA report. Nutrition service report. Dominguez.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Dominguez. I'm the nutrition director. Excuse me if I'm a little nervous. This is my first time in front of the board. I just wanted to report that we did have our administrative review this year. And being a director, that sounds a little scary, especially being a new director. But I'm just happy to report that we only had one finding. That was with the wellness policy. There's a assessment that needs to be done every 3 years. And it was due June 21st. I'm sorry, by June 30th of 2021. And we found that that hadn't been done. So we got started on completing that. And at the end of the exit conference for our review, we were given a deadline of June 15th to complete the assessment review. And we actually completed it 2 weeks early. We got it done on May 25th. We met with the wellness committee and we finished the last part of that. I turned in the results to CDE and we're just waiting for it to close. With the wellness committee in place, we're planning to conduct 4 meetings a year. And the next triennial assessment is due by June 30th of 2024. So we're going to stay on top of that moving forward, being proactive and making sure that we're going to be ready for that. So yeah, that's all I have to report. Are there any questions? Thank you. I just want to say I'm happy to be here too. Thank you. Say it and then I'll read this. Okay.
Public hearing, Fairfax School District, July 1st, 2022, budget.
The board will open a public hearing for the public to provide comments and or concerns related to the proposed Fairfax School District July 1, 2020 budget proposal for board consideration and approval at the special meeting dated on Thursday, June 23rd, 2022 at 6 p.m.
Public hearing, 2022, annual LCAP. No.
Okay, so are there any public comments on the budget? And we do need to keep that open for 1 minute. It's 7:16, so. A minute's a really long time. It is now 7:17.
We close the meeting. The public hearing. Public hearing for 2022 annual LCAP.
The board will open a public hearing for a public to provide comments and or concerns related to the proposed 2022-2023 Fairfax School District Annual LCAP update proposed for board consideration and approval at a special board meeting dated Thursday, June 23rd, 2022 at 6 p.m.
Before we start the public hearing, the LCAP was presented in its entirety at the last board meeting by Mr. Clark. He wasn't able to be here tonight, but you heard Mr. Mack refer to the LCAP earlier this evening, and it truly is our overarching plan in which we really use to plan and make sure that all of our initiatives align to the goals that that have been set, because these goals are taken out to our educational stakeholders, such as our parents and our admin and our community, to ensure that we are providing the services and meeting the needs of all of our students. I just want to briefly remind everyone of our LCAP goals, and then we'll open up the hearing. We have 3 goals. If you've been around for a while, we used to have 4 goals. They've been condensed to 3. The first goal is students will demonstrate continuous progress toward mastery of Common Core state standards that will prepare them for college and career readiness through grade level standards, based instruction, and targeted support from highly qualified teachers. Goal 2, all English learners will be provided high quality instruction in English language development in order to make progress towards English language proficiency. And goal 3, the Fairfax School District will provide supplemental services to increase school connectedness in the area of student engagement, parent involvement, and school safety. And so there is several plans that have to be done by numerous departments throughout the school year. And anytime a new plan is developed, it is the first plan we look at is our LCAP to ensure that we have a continuum of support for our students. And so with that.
Okay, the time is now 7:19. Do we have any comments from the public? Can you just please come up to so we can all hear you? Thank you.
My question is that since you'll be having a special meeting for the LCAP and the budget on the 23rd, I wasn't prepared. I wasn't here last meeting. If we have any questions, can we ask them on the 23rd?
Absolutely. Any voting item, you're always, as a member of the public, you can ask a question on any voting item prior to the board voting and making a decision.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other comments? It's now 7:20.
The hearing is closed. Number 13, consent section. If there's no questions or comment, can I get an approval for 1 to 12? Do I have a first motion?
I move that we have. Thank you. Consent sections 1 through 12. Pass.
In number 13?
A second.
We're doing number 13.
Yeah.
No?
The consent.
You're right.
For number 13, right? 1 through
Right.
12.
The financial
I-
report personnel.
yes.
all.
Okay, so just for review, we have a first by Lawson and a second by Cornell.
Okay, roll call, Cornell,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Tapia.
Aye.
Okay, for Miss and I.
Okay, so now that consent is approved, I see someone who's on the agenda. If we'd like to have you come up and tell us a little bit about your new position as STEM teacher. I was so hoping you'd bring those cuties with you. Oh, I missed it. I was in a meeting. Yeah.
So my name is Lauren Saavedra. I've been a kindergarten teacher at Zephyr Lane for the last 5 years. And I just got the STEM position. I'm super excited to take over the program. It's a new, exciting experience. I'm a little sad to leave my kinders because, you know, they're my babies, but I'm really looking forward to working with all the kids at Zephyr Lane and doing some new exciting projects over there. So it'll be exciting. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Number 14, action item. If there's no questions or comment, can I approve 1 through 12?
Actually, if I can make a suggestion, if we, for this section, if we approve 1 through 13 minus 6. So we have to exclude 6. So it'd be 1 through 5 and 7 through 13.
If there's no questions or comments, do I have a first motion? Do I have a second?
I second.
Cornell,
Aye.
Tapia,
Aye.
Hermes and I.
Miss Lawson.
Lawson? Lawson? Okay. Communication from the board and future items.
So this section is listed for any board member who would like to have staff research any items or put them on future agendas.
Superintendent Costa.
So as the 2021-2022 school year comes to a close, I am extremely proud of the work that each and every staff member and student has done in this district. It has been a very difficult year with COVID. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Vaccinated, no vax. Test, don't test. And that has been caused a very stressful year because our main goal is to make sure that our students are taken care of and are well educated. And I've been very impressed with all of the changes that we've come through with adopting some of the state recommendations where we're going to be going to a 9-hour day for our students. I believe staff has done a remarkable job. Especially, I would like to thank Ms. Brown. She has taken over administrative services and has been able to kind of pull together some of those COVID related things. She's brought us through swimmingly. There's a lot of compliance issues that are with that, and she's done a fabulous job. I'd like to thank Mr. Mack for kind of taking over in the middle of the year with business services and starting to bring a new school on board. It's not an easy thing. You think it would be easy, just find a piece of land, buy it. Not so. There's probably about 1,500 hoops that we have to jump through. And there's no one I want to jump through those hoops more with than Mr. Mack. He's very thorough and very helpful. I'd like to thank Mr. Garday. He filled some very big shoes. And with I believe it's what, about $5.6 million that we're getting for expanded learning, Mr. Mack? 5.9, sorry. He's taken on a really big division because now we're going to be working on providing, as I said, our students a 9-hour day and making sure that we provide healthcare, both physical and mental, for all of our students. Is a huge job, and he has sort of taken the reins and done a wonderful job with that. Mr. Clark, I'd like to thank him for kind of stepping up and making sure that we have everything we need as far as documentation. And I kind of make a joke that we're in plandemic because every time the state decides to give us some funding, there's a plan that goes with it. And so Mr. Clark gets to do all of those plans. And I would like to thank the district office staff. This is, I didn't have a transition. It was just boom, I'm here. And they have been a wonderful support. And I thank them for all that they do every day. And there are too many to name. I wish I could name all of our 400 employees, but I truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank every single staff member for what they do for our students on a daily basis.
Thank you for coming to the meeting. The meeting is adjourned.